Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Alberta has elected another Liberal MP as the mail-in ballots gave the win to a candidate in Edmonton Centre. Police in Lethbridge have asked for the public's help in locating a suspect in connection with a Monday afternoon shooting. And the U.S. announces that it is doubling the amount of COVID-19 vaccines it will share with the world.
Your nation. Your province. Your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Earlier this month, 9 post-secondary institutions, including the University of Lethbridge, announced that all students, visitors, and teachers will have to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 to enter the schools. Well, not everyone was in favor of that idea. Some protesters gathered outside of the U of L Thursday afternoon to say no to mandatory vaccines.
It shouldn't be up to any governing body to decide what goes into another person's body. It should be our choice no matter what. So whether you're pro-vaccine or you're anti-vaccine, either way, we should all have the right to choose what goes into our body, especially where there's risk, there should be a choice. When you talk to people who come to these rallies and these protests, majority of them have received all their vaccines, they're up to date. It's not that we're anti-vaccine, it's that we're pro-choice and that we don't feel like it's going to end here. That it's going to end with vaccines. It's going to continue to escalate to other things is truly what we believe and what I believe.
Mandatory vaccinations will be required starting on November 1st to enter the campus unless students and staff can provide a medical exemption. Lethbridge police need our help finding another suspect in connection with a shooting on the city's south side on Monday. An arrest warrant has been issued for 37-year-old Nicholas Rodney Scout of Lethbridge. He faces a wide range of charges including assault with a weapon, and use of a firearm while committing an offense. This stems from an incident on Monday in the 2200 block area of 7th Avenue South when a male subject shot a round from a rifle following a vehicle collision. A 27-year-old man associated with the case was already arrested and the weapon was recovered. Fortunately, no one was hurt. If you know where Nicholas Rodney Scout is, contact Lethbridge Police right away at 403-328-4444 or call Crime Stoppers. The City of Lethbridge's first ever Targeted Redevelopment Incentive Program project was completed in downtown on Thursday. 608 Health, formerly known as East Meets West, held its grand opening. As Carson Marsouk reports now, the opening is the first of many redevelopment projects set to take place downtown.
The City of Lethbridge celebrated the grand opening of 608 Health, the first downtown redevelopment project using the Targeted Redevelopment Incentive Program, also known as TRIP. The city is expected to receive $88,000 more in annual taxes than what was being received prior to construction.
The city benefits from this program in that once the short-term cancellation period is over, a far greater amount of taxes are received due to the increased value of the property.
Urban Revitalization Manager with the city, Andrew Malcolm, says the new capital investment has added 60 jobs to the downtown.
This was a building, as Mayor Spearman alluded to, that was tired. This was a location with a lot of vandalism and some social disorder issues going on. And now with this investment, we are seeing an incredible amount of positive activity daily with the employees that are down here spending money on their lunch hours, coming and going, as well as all of the people that come to 608 Health for the variety of different services that you can access here.
Some of those services include massage, acupuncture, chiropractor, psychology, dental, fitness, a pharmacy, supervised childcare, and more.
608 Health aims to disrupt the traditional healthcare model, bringing a multitude of professionals together to form a unified, collaborating team with a common goal of optimal patient-centered care.
TRIP provides an incentive to businesses constructing or doing a major renovation in the downtown and is available for projects with a minimum construction value of $500,000. For Bridge City News, I'm Carson Marsouk.
Viterra Inc. has once again partnered with Stars Air Ambulance to sponsor its 2022 fundraising calendar. Now, this is the 7th year Viterra has teamed up with Stars to cover the full printing costs of the calendar, which is value of more than $1.6 million. The funds raised will go directly to helping Stars' daily operations.
The proceeds help to ensure that we have fuel in our helicopter fuel tanks, that we have vital medications in our IV lines, and that the back of our helicopters are staffed with the best, most highly trained critical care professionals with access to all of the leading edge equipment and tools that will help patients across Western Canada.
We're really grateful for the support of our employees. They're the ones that really carry the campaign for us. So yes, we do the print sponsorship, which supports the calendars, which is great, but we're really grateful for that support from our staff. They're really enthusiastic about the initiative. They believe in the initiative because STARS covers where they live and work. And so every year they work hard to drive awareness and ensure that our campaign is a success through the fall season.
The calendar campaign is entering its 29th year and has already raised millions of dollars to date. The calendars will go on sale on December 3rd and can be purchased at starscalendar.ca. Lethbridge Transit has been gathering information and bus rider feedback since the new CityLink network was implemented in August. There are 4 major demand zones in the city, and riders can book a demand ride where a bus will pick them up by using an app or by calling 311. General Manager for Lethbridge Transit, Tim Sanderson, says transit has met the goal of speeding up efficiency with on-time performance being at 25%. There's also a 6.8% reduction of riders needing a transfer. Sanderson says there are also some bigger issues which have been addressed since the program started.
One of the issues we had was on our blue and gold lines on Saturday, where the schedules weren't offset. We made that change as soon as we realized that that wasn't done. We made that change. We've made a number of other changes that seem like slight changes, like, for example, changing the parking locations of buses at this facilities. That seemed like, well, that's not a very big change, but there's just a cascading effect of having one of those little changes all the way down. We've made a number of changes to the demand zone areas just to make them a lot more user-friendly. And then we've got a number of recommendations that we are going to put into place with our service change in November.
Each quarter, transit reviews its service levels and makes adjustments. The next review is slated for November. A total of 32 candidates are vying for a seat on Lethbridge's City Council. As we continue to provide our viewers with a chance to hear from all of the candidates, BCN's Naveen Day spoke with 2 gentlemen who want to focus on community safety.
2 Lethbridge residents who are running for a spot on Lethbridge's City Council this fall want to see a safer city. One of those candidates is Ryan Lepko. Currently working for the Solicitor General as a probation officer, he wants to work with different levels of government to end the catch and release behavior of our justice system and law enforcement.
The crime has increased significantly here in Lethbridge over the years. We have the highest crime severity index in all of Canada, and what business would want to invest in a city that has a high crime index if they can go to Coaldale or another outlying community?
Also on deck is Zachary Hampton. In addition to reducing crime in the city, he wants to remove polarization and restore civility in the council chambers.
We have different councillors calling each other morons and idiots and all kinds of things, setting a tone for the city in leadership that just wasn't professional, to be quite honest, at points. And so for me, in order to solve a lot of the other issues such as crime and homelessness and taxation, you need people who are going to be prepared to work together towards solutions as opposed to not.
Hampton adds that he would like to see a period of economic recovery before the city spends tax dollars on more projects. Lepko has a similar sentiment when it comes to the city's finances. He says he wants to take a prudent approach, utilizing tax dollars for hard infrastructure and emergency services. He says this will create an environment in which the free market will decide what businesses come or do not come to Lethbridge. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
Alberta Premier Jason Kenney faced down a divided UCP caucus Wednesday while managing to avoid a straw vote on his leadership. Officials say the focus on the debate at the meeting was the pandemic. Some caucus members have criticized Kenney's health measures as being too little too late, while others say he's gone too far and violated their rights by bringing forth those vaccine passports. Alberta currently has more than 20,000 active COVID-19 cases, with critical care facilities pushed past normal capacity. There were around 1,040 in hospital with the illness, including 310 in intensive care. There were also 20 more COVID-19 related deaths. Now that brings us to our poll question this week, which is, do you feel that vaccine passports are effective and necessary? Make sure you visit our website, bridgecitynews.ca, and let us know your thoughts. We'll tabulate the results and have them for you in a later show. The final results are in from the federal election, and Edmonton Centre has a new MP. Liberal candidate Randy Boissonneau was declared the winner. Boissonneau beat out Conservative incumbent James Cumming. The pair had been running neck and neck since the election on Monday night, but mail-in ballots needed to be counted. Boissonneau was first elected as the Member of Parliament for the riding in 2015, but lost out to Cumming in 2019. Now, a very close election race in West Winnipeg is headed for a recount. Elections Canada says Conservative incumbent Marty Morantz defeated Liberal Doug Eyolfson by only 24 votes. Counting all of the ballots in the riding of Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley continued for around 48 hours after the polls closed on Monday night. Eyolfson says he anticipates the recount to take place in the coming days. Ontarians are now required to show proof of vaccination against COVID-19 for indoor dining, gyms, movie theaters, and certain other venues. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says it's no secret that he didn't want to impose the restrictions, but they were necessary to avoid future lockdowns.
We can't afford to shut down again or experience a sudden surge in cases, like we're seeing in other provinces across the country. And I truly believe that this tool, these certificates, they're the best chance we have to get through this coming months without having to move backwards. But let me be very clear. This is a temporary and exceptional measure, and we will only use these certificates for as long as they are needed and not one day longer.
U.S. President Joe Biden says his country is doubling its purchase of Pfizer's COVID-19 shots to share around the world. The purchase of another 500 million doses brings the total U.S. vaccination commitment to more than 1.1 billion doses through 2022.
I made and I'm keeping the promise that America will become the arsenal of vaccines, as we were the arsenal for democracy during World War II. We've already shipped nearly 160 million doses to 100 countries, more than every other country has donated combined. America's donations of 500 million Pfizer vaccines through COVAX have already begun to ship. Today, I'm announcing another historic commitment. The United States is buying another 500 million doses of Pfizer to donate to low and middle-income countries around the world. This is another 500 million doses that will all be shipped by this time next year.
Members of the Congressional Black Caucus in the U.S. House stood in the rain outside of the Capitol building to denounce the treatment of Haitian migrants who are trying to get into the U.S. through the U.S.-Mexico border.
And I'm not just unhappy with the cowboys who were running down Haitians and using their reins to whip them. I'm happy with the administration. We are following the Trump policy. What we witnessed was worse than what we witnessed in slavery. Cowboys with their reins again whipping black people, Haitians.
The Biden administration must immediately and indefinitely halt all deportations of Haitian migrants. It must affirm and guarantee the right to due process for those seeking asylum. And it must use every resource available to support those fleeing this humanitarian crisis on the island.
Samaritan's Purse volunteers are in southeast Louisiana removing debris, tarping roofs, cutting down trees for homeowners who were impacted by Hurricane Ida. The Christian group says more volunteers are still needed to come alongside of hurting residents to let them know that God has not forgotten them.
This down here is home to me. You know, I know it sounds crazy about all the hurricanes, you know, and everything like that. It was down here where I lost my oldest son, and all my grandsons, great-grandkids are here. So, you know, this is home to me.
It's a closely knit community, like I told you. Everybody knows somebody around the parish. No matter where you go, no matter who you talk to, they know somebody.
I tell you, the storm was bad. I mean, it was bad.
Our little town was just ravaged by Hurricane Ida. And here we are in the aftermath, trying to clean up from what's been done.
Samaritan's Purse is mobilizing volunteers to help homeowners that were affected by the hurricane get their roofs tarped, their homes dried in, get out all that water-damaged content and sheetrock, flooring, and also to help take care of some trees for them so that they can begin the recovery process and the rebuilding process.
On this one it says, "He who loves God will love his neighbor," and that's really what we're doing, because I love God. I love Bradley, but I don't know Bradley, but I do want to serve him. I want to do the best I can for him because I love God, God loves him. You find out a little bit about their story and it makes it very personal, and you want to do everything you could possibly do. You don't want to leave sticks and trash in their yard, because anything you do is one less thing they have to deal with.
Thank God for the volunteers who make such a difference. When it comes to dealing with difficult people or situations, many believe that the best thing we can do is turn to God. Dan Fox is a pastor and author of the new book, Is My Butt Too Big? Butt as in B-U-T, not B-U-T-T. Pastor Dan says believing and reaching out to God is key in managing through a lot of life struggles.
We need to believe again that there can be something significant in our lives. It may not be world-shattering or world-changing, but for an individual that we work with or a neighbor, it might be life-changing for eternity for that individual if we would just hear from God and run and walk with his will. And it's really that opening chapter about believing again, that we can be used of God and that our lives can matter and we can make a difference.
Pastor Dan will have more on why we need to believe, and on his new book as well, Is My Butt Too Big? That's coming up later in our broadcast. Dallas Lewis is also an author. She's an interesting title for her book as well, called Why Some Animals Eat Their Young, A Survivor's Guide to Motherhood. She recently chatted with BCN's Jeanette Rocher about if, as parents, it's important to be our children's friend.
It's the parent's job to be a parent. I wasn't friends with my mom until I turned 40. And, it's just not my job to be their friend. They have friends, but what they need are parents, grown-ups, and other adults around them to show them where their place in society is.
Watch the full interview with author Dallas Lewis coming up after business news. Well, fall is here, and we saw some slightly cooler temperatures across southwestern Alberta, but it won't last as the mercury will be going up. Complete weather details are on deck. It has been a beautiful week so far here in the Windy City, and that trend should continue for the next little while. Jeanette Rocher is back with a complete look at our weather forecast. Jeanette, the leaves may be changing color, but it'll feel more like summer again soon?
Yeah, still feeling a lot like summer these days. And I know a lot of people, I feel like this is their favorite time of the year with all those beautiful fall colors, but yet you still get to wear t-shirts. So definitely t-shirt weather coming up this weekend. Overnight tonight, though, still feeling those winds, 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Also a frost. We could get a risk of frost overnight. So if you do have some plants on those decks, you might want to think to bring them in overnight, because overnight low is only going to get to 2 degrees. Into tomorrow, Friday, lots of sunshine, going to feel a little summery again. 22 the high, 29 is our high on a Saturday with a mix of sun and cloud. A beautiful 26-degree day is what we have in store for Sunday. Into Monday, 27, Tuesday, 25, and Wednesday, 21 degrees. So loving these temperatures. Definitely bringing us above this average high for this time of year. 19 is the average high. 4 is the average low. 32 was where we're at in 1994. And back in 1946, we were sitting at -5 degrees. 7:19 is when the sun rose this morning. Sunset this evening at 7:28 p.m. So you're seeing those days getting a little bit shorter, almost down to that 12-hour mark now. Over on the west coast, looking at sunshine in Victoria, 21. Same thing for Vancouver. Vancouver going to feel warmer inland. They also have a humidex for tomorrow. Beautiful 20-degree day tomorrow in Edmonton under sunny skies. Calgary also sunshine in 21. Both of those cities getting, actually Calgary getting a southwest wind at 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Over on the rest of the prairie, 17 the high in Saskatoon with sunny skies. Regina 16 and sunshine. Northwest wind for both of those cities. Same thing for Winnipeg, looking at 30K winds with 15 degrees the high and lots of sunshine. Toronto looking at a 40% chance of rain tomorrow, 18 the high. Rainfall warning still in effect for Ottawa this evening, and looking at another 40% chance of showers tomorrow. High of 20, 21 tomorrow in Montreal. Risk of a thunderstorm early in the morning. Then it should be clearing up for the rest of the day. As we look to Atlantic Canada, 23 degrees, looking at a chance of showers in Fredericton. Beautiful sunny skies in Halifax, high of a lovely 24, 25 in Charlottetown. Should be a lovely day there as well, mainly sunny skies. 13 the high in St. John's with a chance of showers. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
SNC-Lavalin is making headlines once again. The corporate entities of SNC-Lavalin and SNC-Lavalin International, along with 2 former senior executives, have been charged with a series of fraud and forgery offenses by the RCMP. Police say former VP of SNC-Lavalin, Norman Morin, and former VP of SNC-Lavalin International, Kamal Francis, have been arrested but released. Officials say the investigation into alleged criminal wrongdoing relates to bribes that were paid in exchange for obtaining a contract. The charges have not yet been tested or proven in court. The matter will go before a Montreal court on September the 27th. Retail sales in Canada dropped 0.6% to $55.8 billion in July. Shoppers diverted some of their spending from goods to services as the economy slowly reopened. Stats Canada says sales at supermarkets and other grocery stores fell 3.4% as more people returned to restaurants and patios. Some economists say the drop in retail sales is consistent with a pullback in economic growth in July, but indications for August point to more of a rebound. Stats Canada says its initial estimate says retail sales gained 2.1% in August, but the agency cautions that figure will be revised. Canada's national office vacancy rate is at its highest level in 27 years. That's according to a recent survey by the CBRE Group, which says its third quarter rate increased from 15.3 to 15.7% as the fourth wave of the pandemic slowed a return of people to the workplace. The firm does say, however, that leasing activity is slowly picking up, driven by demand in the technology sector. Around 40% of Canadian markets saw increased occupancy. Calgary's vacancy rate is among the highest at 30.1%, while Toronto stands at 13.7%. Vancouver is among the lowest in the country at 7.4%. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 60 points on the day to finish at 20,462. The Dow was up 506 points to 34,765. The S&P 500 was up 53 points to 4449, and the Nasdaq was up 155 points on the day to 15,052. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $1.07 to $73.30 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 17 cents to $4.98 US. Gold was up 4 cents to $17.42.79 US an ounce, and silver was even at $22.51 US an ounce. Wheat is at $11.29 per bushel, barley's at $9.03, canola's at $19.84, and corn is at $10.92 per bushel. Live cattle were down 5 cents to $123.23. Feeder cattle were down 83 cents to $156.85, and lean hogs were up 90 cents to $84.75. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to $79.03 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, Premier Jason Kenney faced down a divided UCP caucus Wednesday while managing to avoid a straw vote on his leadership. Officials say the focus on the debate at the meeting was the pandemic. Some caucus members have criticized Kenney's health measures as being too little too late, while others say he's gone too far and violated their rights by bringing forth vaccine passports. Alberta currently has more than 20,000 active COVID-19 cases, with critical care facilities pushed well past normal capacity. As a parent, is it important to always be a friend to our kids? Dallas Lewis, who wrote the book, Why Some Animals Eat Their Young, A Survivor's Guide to Motherhood, will share her thoughts next. But first, here's a look what's happening in and around your community.
Here's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar. Support Indigenous small businesses and shop local for authentically made Indigenous crafts and other items on Saturday, September 25th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in front of Fort Whoop-Up. For inquiries about booth setup and other information, email callie.eaglespeaker@galtmuseum.com. Discover how Lethbridge has played an important military role in the preservation of world peace and security by visiting the Lethbridge Military Museum at the Vimy Ridge Armory at the Lethbridge Airport. The museum is open to the public each Wednesday from noon to 4 p.m. Special arrangements for other days and times can be made by calling 403-892-6531. Admission is free, but donations are gratefully accepted. For information, go to lethbridgemilitarymuseum.org. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.
Well, being a mother can be incredibly a challenging juggling act, and an instruction manual would definitely help. Well, we may have one for you today as we are joined by Dallas Lewis, a mother of 3 and author of Why Some Animals Eat Their Young, a survivor's guide to motherhood. Dallas, welcome. You're joining us from Houston. Love the title of your book, by the way. It's hilarious.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to be here. Yeah.
All right. So you dived right into the motherhood business. So I understand that within a span of only 26 months, you went from getting married to having 3 kids. Boom, 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 just like that. So did you and your husband plan for things to happen this way, or was this unexpected?
No, totally unexpected. We planned to get married. We planned to have children. We thought there would be more space in between all of those events, and it turns out there really wasn't. I met my husband. We got married 6 months later, and then 6 months after that, we got pregnant, and I just stayed pregnant, like all the time
for what felt like forever, probably.
Yes, definitely forever.
What were the biggest adjustments that you had to make to how you envisioned your life would turn out once you married your Prince Charming? And his name's Jeff, right?
His name is Jeff. Yeah. So the biggest adjustment that I made was not being able to sleep. When we had all of these kids, nobody tells you that babies don't sleep. They don't sleep at all. And they sleep more than their mothers, and they definitely sleep more than their fathers do. I think my husband morphs into some super stealth ninja at night because none of the children ever woke him up to fight bad guys, to fix tummy aches, nothing. I don't know what they thought I was going to do against a monster in the hallway, but I don't know. Nope, that's my job title. I fight bad guys, and I kiss boo-boos.
So you were super mom.
Yeah. And I didn't sleep for almost a decade. I had a baby monitor next to my bed. I had 3 of them. And so I knew which kid to go to. And, then you'd make the rounds. Once you're upstairs, you just make the rounds and make sure everybody else is okay. And 9 times out of 10, you made more than one stop.
Right. Now, I mean, many moms describe motherhood as being the toughest job in the world. You have as well. So why, in your life, in your opinion, why is motherhood the toughest job in the world? As if we can't tell already from your little bit of a story there.
Well, did I mention that we don't get any sleep? That I didn't realize. I want to take back all of the times in my kindergarten years and my first grade years when they wanted us to nap, and I said, no, I'm good. You can't stockpile sleep. And it's just, I was a stay-home mom. That was what Jeff and I decided. We, especially when we had so many of them, and it just didn't make any sense for me to work outside the home. But with that means that I don't ever leave my office. I'm on duty 24/7 with no interaction with people that can actually put coherent words together. And so it gets very tiresome. My sweet husband, he could actually leave his work and come home. I never left my work. I never left. So that just, it makes it kind of wearisome at times. It's wonderful. I wouldn't change a thing. But it does make it a little bit exhausting at times.
I think definitely that's one thing you do hear about moms, especially stay-home moms, is that becomes their world, right? And you almost forget how to talk to other adults. But, and you need those boundaries. So you believe that kids not only need boundaries, but they also want them. Speaking of boundaries, so kids need them. So without those boundaries, the kids are in control and not the parent. So why do you believe that our society is so confused about this role of parenthood?
You nailed it, because the kids are in control, and it totally goes against the natural law, the natural order, the hierarchy of the family. And there's so many instances that you see all over TV, you see them on the news, you see them all over social media, that, little Junior runs the house, and little Junior doesn't pay the mortgage, and, he doesn't pay the light bill, and we told our kids, we allow you to live here. That's your allowance. You are allowed to live here, and you are allowed to take out the trash when I tell you, and maybe I'll feed you dinner. And, it's the parent's job to be a parent. I wasn't friends with my mom until I turned 40. And, it's just not my job to be their friend. They have friends, but what they need are parents, grown-ups, and other adults around them to show them where their place in society is, and how to behave like a functioning member of that society.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. Now, you advocate that one of the greatest examples parents can give their children is to put each other first and model a healthy marriage. So why do you believe that this is and why this isn't selfish?
Because of what I just said, it's our job to raise productive members of society and then release them into the wild. And if we've done our job as parents, we can do that, and then our children will go and be another generation of hands-on good parents. But in doing that, if we forget our spouse and we forget who we're married to, then by the time that last little chick leaves the nest, we're going to be having coffee with a stranger. And that is detrimental to any relationship. And, my husband has continued to date me for the last 22 years. And, and human babies are the most helpless babies on the planet until they're maybe 35. And then, they need guidance, they need a hands-on parent. But at the same time, that parent still needs to be able to connect. Mom and dad need to be more than just mom and dad. They need to remember that they're husband and wife. And that's the best gift that we can give our kids. So, because we want that trend to continue into the next generation and the next generation. And I think it's really, really important.
Mm-hmm, it is. And I can understand too, some people, maybe their initial reaction would be, oh, that's selfish that we're putting ourselves first, or I'm putting somebody before my children. But when you think about it, the spouse was there first in some cases, and in a lot of cases, and that is how it's supposed to be. But yeah, I can see that kind of the guilt when you don't put your kids first. But I think we're not supposed to put our kids necessarily first in everything.
Mm-mm. No, we're not. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I would do anything. I would fight a grizzly bear for my children. But I would also do the same thing for my spouse, who's been there for me for the last 22 years, who loves me unconditionally. He's seen me at my worst. He's been my partner, my stabilizer, all of this through all the chaos, and he's been there. So I think that it's not selfish. It's self-preservation to be able to go for a weekend downtown and leave the kids at grandma's.
There you go. Now, Dallas, you use the acronym UFO a bit differently. So you call this unique family opportunities. So how do you navigate these situations, and what do you try to teach your children through these?
To be honest, I'm still learning that, as I have a lot of unique family opportunities on both sides of the family. Both sides, my side, his side, everybody. And the best advice I can give is, you don't exactly know where everybody is in their personal daily life. And sometimes, it's difficult to look at a happy functioning family and you don't have that yourself. And so sometimes it gets a little wonky. But the best thing to do is realize that his family gave him to me, and so there's a level of respect with that. And then my family, well, they gifted me to him, and my mother already said there's no refunds, so he stuck with me. which means he's stuck with my parents too. So, you do the best you can. You show grace to everybody, mercy, and just try to treat people the way that you would like to be treated. Doesn't always work, but you know that as far as it depends on you, you're at peace.
Yeah, I like that. Unique family opportunities. Is that a nice way of saying craziness? Family craziness.
So crazy. So crazy.
That's hilarious. Now, Dallas, with the COVID pandemic and all the changes that this brings about, so what advice do you have for children who are experiencing worry and anxiety? So many of our kids are experiencing that. Absolutely.
So my youngest actually does suffer from an anxiety disorder, and so that's something that is very, that hit very close to us. We were thankful, we were blessed to have our children in a parochial school environment, private school, that allowed them to work for a solution toward these kiddos they've been on lockdown, they've been relegated to virtual school only, and now if they go back to school, they've got to mask up, and facial expressions are vital. They are vital to comforting a child, to getting your point across, to all of these social cues. And so as parents, when we've got our kiddos that are re-navigating the social scheme, it's just up to us to let them know that their home place is a secure spot for them, and that there's a lot of things that are going to go on in this world that are outside of our capabilities and outside of our control. And the only thing that we can do is give them a safe landing spot in the afternoons and equip them as best we can to do their very best.
I think that's very important because it's happening. So many kids suffer from anxiety. And yeah, absolutely. Now, you say that marriage is hard and marriage with kids is almost impossible. So if you aren't willing to stand your ground and fight for what you have, so can you maybe elaborate on this a little bit?
Sure. It's the same with being my kid's best friend and putting boundaries up. Marriage, you've got two people coming into it that may or may not have known each other very well. And then you throw a kid in there, and honestly, babies don't come with instruction manuals. The hospital will release you with that child. They don't call and check on you. I 3 times they didn't call and check on me, and they probably should have with my first one. But you've got to set those boundaries so that those kiddos don't run your house. Don't run your house. And that's what makes it so difficult, is sometimes mom and dad are not always on the same page, and they really need to be. And that's what makes it so hard. You can navigate the first year of marriage by yourself, but when you start throwing little ones in there and you've got one idea and he's got a different idea, and then don't forget your mother's got an idea and his mom has got an idea. You need to set some ground rules and pay attention to what's going on, or your marriage is going to suffer for it.
That's right, exactly. And then here come the crazies, right? Those unique family opportunities.
That's right.
Yeah, well, Dallas, you use lots of humor, obviously, in telling your stories and lessons that you've learned along the way. But at the same time, none of what you were experiencing was exactly funny, especially at the time. I'm sure that's how that felt. But what is your message to parents or those planning to become parents?
Let's see. My first message is practice with a puppy. Get a puppy first, and see if you can handle the responsibilities. No, but my message is you got to be able to laugh. You've got to be able to laugh at yourself, and because your kids are going to provide multiple opportunities for other people to laugh at you, and so you just need to find the joy in things. This parenting thing is very, very hard, but it's awesome. I mean, it's totally awesome. You get to watch a human come into this world, whether through you or through another avenue, and you get to raise. You have the benefit, the blessing of raising that human, watching their little minds click into place. Now, sometimes it's diabolical. You watch the next budding criminal in your own house, but they're so precious. They're so precious. And I'm thankful that I actually wrote all of these stories down when I did, that I kept a little journal, or I kept, I don't remember exactly when I started my blog, but it helps. Distance helps perspective. So if you can get just a little distance from it and have people to talk to, increase your mom circle, because we weren't created to be islands. We were created to be in community with each other, and nobody is perfect. You don't disregard what you see on Instagram and Facebook. Nobody's perfect. So just learn to just roll with it. You can't control the chaos. Just roll with it.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. And of course, coming from a mom of, your kids are now 18, 19, and 20. So you've had that span of experience that you can kind of share your wisdom with others. Thanks so much for being with us today, Dallas. I really appreciate it.
So fun. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed it.
Many people today have common doubts, especially when it comes to what's taking place in society today. And where does God fit in all of this? To help make some sense of this is pastor and author Dan Fox. Dan has written a book called Is My Butt Too Big? Butt as in B-U-T, not B-U-T-T. And Dan has been involved in a number of ministries over the years, including youth ministries, various church board positions, and you may have also seen him right here on Miracle Channel. Pastor Dan, welcome back to Bridge City News.
Hello, Hal. Thanks for having me.
Now, Pastor Dan, I was looking into the heart of your book, Is My Butt Too Big? And it's not really a weight loss book, but more of a book to rid ourselves of common doubts and finding God's will for our lives?
That's exactly it. That's exactly what it's about. And I find that a lot of people, all of us, we attend church and year after year, and we kind of sometimes can lose our zeal. This is sort of a book to help us shore up the foundation. Even an old foundation can get a few cracks in it, so nothing wrong with doing a little work to shore things up and get our enthusiasm and our excitement back, finding God's purpose and will for us, even in the day-to-day, not necessarily something life-changing, but just maybe you need to pray with somebody at work that's struggling with their marriage or something along those lines, just walking in God's will. That's what the book's really helping to steer us towards. At least that's my desire, my hope for it.
So how important is prayer then in our walk with God?
Prayer is that's that relationship. I mean, Jesus said very clearly, we have to stay connected. He's the vine and we're the branches. And if we're not connected, no matter how good our intentions, we're not getting that grace and that help and that real direction from God on a regular basis. Staying connected is the biggest thing, because then we know we're not just doing something that's good, but we're doing what God's asking us to do. And that's key. If we really want his blessing, his strength, and his best in our lives, is to be doing what he's asked us to do, not necessarily doing everything that needs to be done.
A lot of people would agree saying that communication is key, communication with our spouses, with our kids, with our coworkers, and with our Heavenly Father. And that's what prayer can really offer there. Now, how did you come up with the title, Is My Butt, as in B-U-T, Too Big? What is it all about?
Well, really, I kind of thought it was clever once it kind of came to me, but honestly, it's from chapter 5 in the book. And really, I find that a lot of people, as we hear these scriptures day after day, year after year, when we walk with the Lord, and they become almost cliche, things like, by Jesus' stripes we're healed, or no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And then we'll pray those things in our prayer closet when we're going through a struggle. And yet out of our own mouths, within hours later, someone will ask us how we're doing. I said, yeah, I know the Bible says that by his stripes I'm healed, but it just doesn't seem to be making any difference. It's those buts, but it just doesn't seem to be. And, it might be a financial need. And I know the Bible says he'll meet all of our needs according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus. But I still seem to struggle. I never have enough money at the end of the month. The bills are always overdue. It's those but statements. They undermine our faith. Faith isn't to be like a light switch turned on and off in our lives. We either believe the word or we don't. So the best thing we can do is we know we believe it. So let's just keep agreeing with it, regardless of what the circumstances say. Agree with what God said and allow him an open door continually to flow his power into our life. Stop switching that power off by allowing our own buts to undermine God's will in our life.
So how often do Christians come to you as well? And I've talked to pastors about this in the past, where we go down on our knees, we pray to our Heavenly Father, we've got concerns, and instead of leaving it at the cross, we stand up and take those problems right back away from God and start stressing out about them.
Oh, that happens so much. I mean, I've been in ministry a lot of years now, and involved in a lot of different ways in ministry, from children's ministry all the way through, even seniors. I did men's ministry, did some street youth outreach, and you see people struggle in the same way. And it's that not trusting God over the long haul, or not continually. Although we trust him in our heart, we believe he's God and he loves us, we tend to try to fix things ourselves and pull things back into our own hands, or we lose sight of the fact that Jesus said all things are possible to him who believes. And we shut off again that faith with just those statements of, yeah, but it doesn't seem to be working, or why is it taking so long? Instead of just saying, I know that God is in this, and I know that he's on my side and he's helping me. And together we're going to see a breakthrough. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I believe God. Continue with that instead of turning that faith off. And really, everybody struggles with that. This book is just a tool to help us really see that clearly, help our understanding, and get ourselves focused again on doing his will and walking with him.
Now, a number of churches have really struggled during the pandemic. What do you feel is the greatest need in the church today?
Honestly, love and unity, and I guess for each of us to really humbly realize that we're just a small piece of a big picture that God is painting, and not just as an individual, but even as a church. There's a lot of different beliefs out there, a little different doctrinal differences, and really we're not in competition with each other, but we really should be out there just winning the world to Christ and showing them what real love and genuine care and concern for those in our own community is all about. And really that'll draw people back into the church and draw new believers in. Jesus said to himself, well, they'll know us by your love, our love for one another. And really we could do better at letting the world see that, instead of little infighting or disagreements or competition with another church. We're not in competition. We just want to see the world one for Christ. And that's what we're all about.
A number of years ago, I was involved in a basketball ministry, bringing a lot of young people in kind of a side door into the church and leading that, until, of course, they got to be a lot stronger and faster than I was as a basketball player. Then I kind of sat out from the sidelines and I cheered them on after that. But how can we bring young people back into the church? What are your thoughts?
Honestly, there needs to be some passion. Passion is something that I talk about in this book. And really that comes from finding God's will and purpose. If young people are just told, this is how you have to behave and this is what you have to do, instead of encouraged to develop that relationship with God and an ear to his voice, and recognize that God is concerned with their future and every part of it, and has a plan and a purpose for each of them. When youth realize God has a plan and a purpose for their life, and that when they get on their knees alone with him on a daily basis, they can hear from him. And then the passion grows when they realize, my goodness, day to day, not just the big things, but even in the little things, praying for someone at school, a classmate, I can walk in God's will. I can know that God has asked me to do this and do it on a regular basis. Then life becomes exciting, and walking with God becomes exciting. But when it's just a list of to-dos and behavioral changes that you have to make on your own, there's nothing too exciting about that.
How can many of us help support so many pastors who've been struggling during the pandemic? I mean, they're human. We're all human here. And many have struggled with things like anxiety and depression.
Yeah, I guess the best thing we can do is just be that encourager, constantly reminding them that they're loved, they're appreciated, and that they don't walk alone. And I mean, for so many of us, the pandemic has really pulled us back out of our church service, and so many feel not as plugged in. And for pastors, seeing so many that they've ministered to for so many years not attending and not sure how they're doing, or I mean, that's a stressful weight on anybody. How would we feel if one or two of our children were out of contact with us for a year or two and we have no idea how they're doing? We're praying for them, believing for them, we raised them, and yet we're not hearing from them. And that's how pastors feel. And it is a hard job. A lot of times those tough things behind the scenes, I don't think many believers appreciate how much they do and what they're doing. And even when they're on their own at home, some may think that they've got it easy. They only work one day a week, but they're on their knees praying for hours. They're in hospitals visiting. They're at people's houses trying to restore marriages that are having difficulties. And there's so much going on behind the scenes. And with a pandemic like this, keeping people out of church, it's even harder, and hard on them to know how to reach people that they're not seeing on a regular basis anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Pastors and the shepherds need their flock. Now, Pastor Dan, what motivated you to write Is My Butt Too Big?
Well, really, I guess, Hal, I felt motivated to write this book. The idea came to me in church, but it came kind of as a nucleus of what direction the book was supposed to take. But really, it was because of the years of struggle I see people going through, where year after year they attend church faithfully, and yet they still struggle in life where they should have success, or they have not necessarily anxiety and some, but almost boredom instead of enthusiasm about the things of God. And God put the book in my heart and told me in no uncertain terms, gave me the name, and said, write this. And it took a long time to write. It's not a very large book. I've been writing a lot since, and I found I can put things together fairly quick. But this one took some time, and it was really trying to get God's heart and have an ear for him and what he wanted to say. And I think it was really because people struggle with sometimes the same thing year after year, and they really shouldn't. And the Lord doesn't want to see that. As believers, we should be progressing, and not just in our faith, but even in our life and our relationships with others around us. We should be progressing, becoming more and more Christ-like, and experience his blessing and his best in our lives. But the years shouldn't go by getting monotonous, but more exciting. And that's really where it came from.
Now, your book opens with a chapter entitled Dare to Dream. Why begin there?
Well, that's a good question, Hal. As children, we all have these great ideas and visions and goals of what we want to do and what we want to become. And I think the school of hard knocks, just life in general, has a way of grinding so much of that out of us. And the book really has to open up and get us to look back at, we can believe for more. Jesus said we need to have faith like a child. Perhaps that's part of why. Because we need to believe again that there can be something significant in our lives. It may not be world-shattering or world-changing, but for an individual that we work with or a neighbor, it might be life-changing for eternity for that individual if we would just hear from God and run and walk with his will. And it's really that opening chapter about believing again, that we can be used of God and that our lives can matter and we can make a difference.
Now, you talked a bit about passion earlier, and passion in your book here. I mean, a passion towards God is vital to help us to grow. But what other areas of our lives should we focus in on when it comes to passion?
Well, really, I think that's the biggest thing that's going to bring that passion is finding that you're doing what God has asked you to do. And that's not necessarily some huge ministry or heading out to the mission field. It could be as simple as somebody that you see on a regular basis that maybe isn't saved. Maybe the Holy Spirit's been asking you, invite them out to that men's breakfast or invite them out to that church service. And yet for some reason, those little things, we seem to be shy or wondering if we should. But when it's the Holy Spirit and you know that he's asking you, you can hear it on the inside. If you just start running with that, say, do it anyway. And don't worry about the outcome, just do what he's asking you to do. That's when your passion starts to grow and increase. It's not like we can make ourselves passionate, but just by finding ourselves doing God's will, we start to see his hand and his power flowing through us to make a difference. And boy, we can get passionate about things then. It gets way more exciting. And it'll start to affect every area of your life. When you see God's will in that area of your life and you start walking in it, boy, it's easy to get excited about life again.
So, Pastor Dan, I'm a viewer at home. I'm watching Bridge City News on Miracle Channel here. What can I hope to gain after reading your book?
Well, really I think some keys, Hal. Just keys that will help us get our thinking right again and get our focus back. And it's easy to lose focus. This world is busy, life is busy, and boy, through this pandemic, it's been a trying time for many people. And just to help us get our roots healthy again, add a little fertilizer to the root system, a little shoring up to the foundation. And really it's just some keys to help us understand where we may be off track a little and what we can do to help us get back into God's will and hearing his voice for ourselves and really running with it. Just some keys to help in our own understanding. I think that's the big thing that this book will give anybody.
So, Pastor Dan, what's the best way of getting hold of a copy of your book, Is My Butt Too Big?
Well, honestly, the fastest way, Amazon. They're amazing. They published the book for me, so you'll get it direct from the printer instead of it coming to me and me sending it to you. Yeah, Amazon you'll find it quick and easy there. And I just ordered one just this week to see how quick it would come. It was 4 days. It was in my mailbox. So they're pretty amazing. But yeah, that's the quickest way.
But what if we want an autographed copy?
Well, then you could contact me at www.schooloffaith.ca, and I could arrange that. And no extra charge for sure. But yeah, that's good, Al.
That's wonderful. Dan Fox is a pastor and author of the book, Is My Butt Too Big? Pastor Dan, thanks for joining us today on Bridge City News.
Thank you so much for having me, Hal. It's been a pleasure.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.